Hello everyone and welcome to the Student Art Podcast. I'm your host Ross Baxter and today is episode 52 of the series. The Student Art Podcast is a weekly series where I bring on guests from the game and film industries to talk about their thoughts and journey on student education and also most importantly how to get into the industry. And first of all, a massive shout out to our sponsor, the Rookies Award. I'm so happy to have these guys on board. It's been amazing. I was able to announce it yesterday. I was so happy. The Rookies Award started in 2010. It's open to young creatives in visual effects, animation, games, virtual reality, motion graphics, and 3D visualization. There is simply no better way to launch your career and start sharing your amazing work online. Make sure to give them a follow and sign up to the website. As always, the links are in the description below. If you're unaware, the Student Art Podcast is live on 10 other platforms alongside YouTube. The podcast is on Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Spotify, and last but not least, we've got Stitcher. And if you guys are tuning in on YouTube when live, obviously make sure to subscribe. It's much appreciated. We're on our way to 3,000 subscribers. And with that said, we've got a great guest for you guys. He's an incredible talent. I'm so happy to have him on. We've got Dan McCabe on the show. How's it going, man?
Well, that was quite the intro. That was awesome. But yeah, nice. I'm glad to be on 10 platforms. That's awesome.
Oh, man, it's just... there's so much things going on in terms of just trying to... do you know when it comes to just the whole concept of getting yourself out there?
Yeah.
Obviously, I'll need to figure out how to shorten things down and make it a bit more concise because I understand that when it comes to the intros and stuff, some people just want to skip it. But it's on 10 platforms now. My plan is to kind of reach out and trying to broaden the scope, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But
that's really good.
Thank you so much for coming on, man. It's so awesome to have you. And before we even get to the main fun part of the podcast, you know what to do, guys. We all have to go spam his follow button, share the love, go check out his link in the description below. Just before we start, man, is there any sort of things that you want to? I don't know. Is it Twitter, Instagram? Do you use what social media do you use?
Oh well, ArtStation's always nice. We're all on ArtStation, aren't we? I love to see everyone's work.
Perfect.
Just type my name in. Dan M3D on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
They're the main two, to be honest. Or if you see me on LinkedIn, just feel free to connect with me. You've probably got enough mutual connections already to just hit the button. So if not, just shoot me an email.
Awesome. So as always, folks, make sure to go give him a follow. It's always appreciated because he makes really great art. So as always, we'll just start off with introductions. It'd be nice to just tell us a wee bit about yourself, what you do, etc. And we'll take it from there, man.
Well, I'm Dan. I work at Codemasters Birmingham as an environment artist. I've recently made the jump from junior to experienced, literally in the past couple of weeks. So that's been really good doing that transition and kind of, first time ever seeing that happen. So that's been a new experience as well.
Awesome.
And yeah, I've worked on F1 2017 as a track artist. So I worked on Monaco and Abu Dhabi.
Right.
18, I worked as a track artist on a few other tracks like Suzuka and stuff like that. And then the last project, I worked in the cinematic department on the Formula 2 stuff.
Wow. That's the thing as well, is when I was checking out, obviously before I do a podcast, I like to obviously do my research and stuff. You're only 21.
Yeah, I got into industry when I was 18.
Awesome.
So that's quite the story.
Oh, that's going to be a whole story that we can talk about as well, because that's just great. It's so amazing to hear, because I actually so I started that's you pretty much starting your normal education. In terms of obviously it depends on where you live in that, but when it comes to the whole education system, people normally tend to go to university or college 17 and 18, but you just went straight there. That's awesome. I understand that you went to college and stuff, but no, that's amazing. Good to hear, man.
Yeah, so I did a level 3
Right.
BTEC at college, and then I was gonna go into a foundation degree for a couple of years, hopefully get good grades in that, and then jump on a third year uni course. So it's basically like going to uni, right?
Yeah.
And I was only 2 or 3 months into my first year of uni essentially, and then my network contacts called me in to work for Codemasters.
Wow. That's crazy, because this is actually a small world, because I actually was in contact with Codemasters. I was thinking about going over to work there, but then something else popped up. and I've just been doing my art ever since. But it's just it's great what Codemasters is doing, because I understand it's very kind of all kind of vehicle driven in terms of the games that they're making basically at the moment.
Yeah, it's very racy at the moment, especially yeah, we had a couple experiments like a few years ago, releasing games that weren't very racy, and I think the we realized as a team it was best for us to focus on racing with the release of Grid recently,
Yep.
and then Dirt and the Dirt series, Dirt Rally 2 and 4, and then obviously Formula 1 as well. Like trying to stick in that racing category. It's quite important to us, I guess.
So is vehicles like a thing that you're passionate about, or like for example, when it comes to your art, like especially your art station, is that you can tell it's literally just vehicles galore. Everything's just going like everywhere, and it's awesome. Just wondering, is that like one of your main passions?
So yeah, when I first wanted to get into industry, I was trying to become a vehicle artist. That was like my main goal. I wanted to do that, and that my Formula One car, which is still up on my art station.
Yep.
That was the car that sort of got Codemasters' attention, because I was 17 or something when I made that.
Wow.
And that really got their attention, and then that helped drive me in. But yeah, at the time my portfolio was very vehicle driven, and I think they realized that if they gave me a shot on the environment team, because I know my tutors, especially when I was at college, didn't like this, but an environment artist is almost a jack of all trades. I wouldn't say master of none, because they tend to be a master of one, and they have like their own little niche part of environment art that they're really good at, whether it be like foliage or architecture or something.
Mm-hmm.
But they can do everything, and I kind of seen my spot there as like vehicles being like sort of like set dressing vehicles and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's what they sort of dragged me in to do, and to be honest, I don't regret it. Like I know a lot of people would go, no, I want to be a weapons artist, I want to be a vehicle artist, and then if they get like in a position to get an environment job, they'd be like, nah, I don't want to do that. But I was like, nah, of course, let's have a go, and it's just as fun as vehicles, and I got that role with almost a vehicle portfolio.
Yeah, nah, that's amazing, because I just like the fact that you took the leap. Like so many people would be, especially at that age, be so maybe like they might be intimidated, or they might think that they're not ready. But the fact that you actually went for it, because like lots of opportunities come up for so many people, but they're so questionable of whether or not they feel ready, because they think that they have to be so comfortable, if you know what I mean. And like that's great that you did that, because like when it comes to like just the industry, getting that experience early on is so important, because it just makes everything just, how can I say it, flow more naturally. You feel more relaxed because you've got more years under your belt at an early age. It just makes the progression easier, I would say.
Yeah, well, I when I got around the same time I got the interview, they approached me for the Codemasters job for environment art. I was offered an internship. It was only like 3 or 6 months or something like that, for EA working on Need for Speed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I was going to be a vehicle artist then. And one thing I'd say to students out there is, especially with weapons and vehicles, like even though they're your passion and stuff, like don't get dead set on them, because you don't want to niche yourself too much. Because I had a friend who was trying to get into a role at our studio, and he had like it was amazing portfolio, one of the best student portfolios I've ever seen, but it was mainly weapons, and he was going for a vehicle role. And to me, I don't see there being much of a problem with that, but like we wanted to see some vehicles on there, obviously, to hire a vehicle artist out of them. But yeah, I'd say don't, like, even if they're your passion, you want to do that, like still have a little bit of a, hey, I can still do it, like just to sort of like a sprinkling of like maybe one environment, like, or one weapon, just to show that you're versatile with your skills as well.
Because I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's a very interesting sort of topic, in the sense that, how can I say it, there's always been like a debate about what's better, like the generalist perspective or the specialty perspective, and you like nailed it perfectly. So I think it's always based around like the studio and the type of people that are obviously at the studio, and you then kind of take it from there. So that obviously comes down to you as an artist and a person to realize, right, it's time to do research, time to figure out what needs to be done in order to get the job done, and to make sure that the employer is interested in you, basically. And clearly, like when you did your portfolio, like you nailed it. Like I was checking that piece that you were talking about as well today, and I was like, and you just said you did it at 17. Like that's amazing. And because you kind of remind me of one of my friends' story. So he's working down in Leeds, and he actually got introduced to like 3D at 13, 14, and because his dad's an actual 3D artist. And it would actually be great to hear is like when it comes to, I guess, when you first started off, like was it like how old were you? Or, like when did it all become a thing? Like how did you like get a passion for art?
So my granddad was a photographer,
Right.
and he gave me a copy of Photoshop when I was 9. Now I still can't draw,
Right.
but it taught me how to like. I basically used it to create posters for my room, so I'd like, mash photos together. I remember one of my favorite ones I ever did was I took Assassin's Creed and Far Cry and like merged them together because I wanted 2 posters, but my mum would only let me have like so many amounts of like photo paper, to
Yeah.
use. So,
Cool.
because I was only young, but then like I sort of did that, and then it came from, like I don't know if anyone here. I know we have all around the world people watching, but people from the UK may remember like a few years ago were everyone sort of at the age of like 13, 14 gets really into like the YouTube like like thing.
Yeah.
They want to become a YouTuber and stuff, and they all set up YouTube channels.
Yep.
And I spotted a gap in the market, and I was like, oh, everyone wants these like YouTube logos and backgrounds making.
Yep.
And then I was like, oh, okay, I've got Photoshop, and I can bodge a few like galaxy things and a lens flare or two onto like logos, and started making art for these people to use as their thing. That sort of got me into graphic design, and then there was a demand for 3D.
Yep.
So like people would want 3D logos or an animated intro, and then I got into what I call it parameter animation. I'm sure an animator's like not happy at the moment because I'm saying something like completely destroying their
Right.
thing.
Okay.
But I'd create like some text just in 3D in Cinema 4D, and then animate it blowing up, or have a ball crashing into it, and then that was the limit of like my 3D ability. I'd never modeled, unwrapped, or textured anything
Yep.
when I went to college when I was like 16. So, but I did have a familiarity with flying around a 3D viewport and Photoshop. So when it came to texturing in Photoshop, because Substance Painter was only just making an entrance,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of navigating 3ds Max, I did have some idea as to what I was doing, but in terms of actual 3D modeling skills, I had none.
No, that's still awesome though, because it's the whole sort of idea. Like that's the reason why I do the podcast. It's the whole story and like hearing different people's perspective of like how things came to be and so forth. And like it was also crazy as well. Like you were saying there about obviously like Substance Painter was just rising as well. Like all these things were kind of following to fruition around that time. Because I only realised the other day, I was actually talking to a friend at work about this. Substance Painter only came out like 10 years ago. Or like Substance, like the whole algorithmic sort of scene, and I thought it was way longer. I just had this sort of instinct thinking it was there for ages, but it's actually relatively new. I know people might think 10 years isn't a long time, or it is a long time, but I don't know. I was really surprised.
Well, I can't really comment on when we put it into the studio because I think that would be breaking something.
Oh
But
yeah, of course.
it definitely wasn't 10 years ago that AAA Studios started adopting Substance Painter.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple started playing around with it when it first came on the scene, but it only really became stable in more recent years. So
Yeah.
even though it came out like 10 years ago, I'd say I'm sure as well, because if you look at, you can kind of tell as well, because if you go on like a job page for like a studio, they usually are like, or having a strong Photoshop knowledge is
Yeah.
like really important, and Painter's a plus because you can teach Painter, but it's like if you're already moving over to Painter, it's really annoying to teach someone Photoshop. So if you're coming on a live project, I'll just pick a random game like Call of Duty, right? And you're like upgrading assets from like, a couple titles ago, and all the textures are in Photoshop, and you don't know how to use Photoshop, that's gonna cause some problems.
Yeah. Because like that's the thing as well. Like I still use Photoshop non-stop. Like I still love it, but obviously Painter's still like obviously that's the main sort of trend in that. You've got your
Yeah.
designer, and then you've got this thing that I was only introduced to through talking to Alex on the podcast, was the alchemist side of things. I'm still like I still need to look into this because it sounds super cool. But before we even go down sort of that kind of route and stuff, there's a few things that we were actually talking before, and that you said that you'd like to raise about the podcast, and we actually kind of touched on it early on. But it's like, so when it comes to like the whole concept of roles and stuff, it'd be great to hear like your thoughts on people, I guess, when it comes to like how can I say it? So obviously, environment art. We'll take environment art for example, and if you want to be an environment artist, obviously everyone else says you need to know this, you need to know that. But in terms of the actual job itself, obviously there's a lot of other things that sometimes happen. Obviously, I know obviously you can't say what happened in the job, but it's like, is there any advice you would say like in terms of what other things to learn maybe?
So, personally, I think one of the most important things to know is sort of my belief system, and anyone who's been sort of tutored or taught by me kind of knows this. Like, your, I personally feel that your model is like the benchmark of how good the asset's going to be. So you can't have, like, the principle is you've got these three sort of bars out of 100, and let's say your model's like 75 out of 100,
Right.
and then that means your unwrap can only ever get to 75 out of 100 because you haven't put the thought into your model to help you with your unwrap. So then your unwrap can only ever be 75 like max, and then let's say you'd like make a couple mistakes there, suddenly you're at 50, and then suddenly your texture is only at like 50% potential. And a lot of people get to the end of their pipeline and they're at texturing and they're like, oh crap, like I should have unwrapped it like this, I should have modeled it like that. And by then you've got to run all the way back. And it goes back to what I was saying, like when you get into a studio, understanding that sometimes you're going to get given an asset and it'll be like, oh, you need to upgrade this or whatever. Sometimes those polygons are, they're older than the team might like to be, but they don't have time to upgrade those assets and stuff. And then you might not have as much time to remodel and make the whole entire thing, but you've got to know where to put the geometry in to make your unwrapping better, and then to put your texture in better, and then to be able to upgrade an asset effectively. Because a lot of the time you're going to get given an asset. Let's say me and Ross are working in a team together, right?
Awesome.
We have like
dream team.
Let's say we're working on Titanfall, because that's a game that neither of us are involved in, and then
Perfect.
and we're making a mech, right? And
Yep.
I'm making like the arm for the mech, and you're making the other arm, because like one needs to be punching, one needs to be shooting.
Okay.
And then suddenly there's been someone's had to go on maternity leave or something like that in another team, and then I've been dragged off to go and work on like the legs or something of another mech. And then by the time that person comes back, I'm already fully invested in the workflow for that legs, and that person comes back off maternity leave to work on the arm with you. It's important that Ross and that person are both at the same bar of quality and able to pick up and drop off any asset at any point and still hit the target quality. And that is a skill that isn't really taught much, and an exercise, if you I'm sure a lot of 3D artists have very close friends who they learn with.
Yeah.
A task I used to do when I used to teach people at college was I would give them an hour, tell them both to model a lightsaber, and then after an hour I'd get them to swap, do it for another hour, and then I'd get them to attach the ends, so then it'd be like a Darth Maul style dual wield lightsaber.
Oh, okay.
And then I'd get them to compare with the other pair next to them, and then go, who managed to jump on the other person's asset better and stuff. And it helps teach the ability to just go, oh, this person's off sick, but it needs to get done by the end of the week. Where was they at? Well, we can't contact them because they're off sick. So, it'd be disrespectful to do that. So now you need to use your initiative and work out how to finish this asset.
That's genius. I'm loving this. This is brilliant. You really know your stuff. Wow, that's awesome. Because like that's the thing, is like when it comes to just the whole sort of idea of what, like you nailed it there. It's like when it comes to the industry, people have to be aware of the fact that it's, at the end of the day, it's about creating a result. Like obviously understand that studios will give you the time and they'll give you the patience, as in like obviously it's a process. Like obviously you have to learn people's pipeline. Like that's completely understandable, and it takes time to do that. But at the end of the day, it's a business, and you have to realize that it's just down to getting up to scratch, like you said, getting up to the right quality, asking questions all the time, seeing what you need to find out in order to get to the delivery that they're requiring, and then take it from there. And you mentioned something really cool there, Ed, that I was also reading about what you've done in the past, and it was I've never even heard of this except from what I heard in Noman. So Noman do a thing called the Sculpt Off, but you actually did. I'm not sure if it's a UK thing. Well, actually, it's excuse me, it is a UK thing. So World Skills UK, and it's competing in the 3D digital game art in digital game art. Can you just tell me about this, because this sounds so awesome? And is it still a thing?
Yeah, and it is all over the world as well.
I've never heard of this. Yeah, you've won awards in it as well. I was like, that's awesome.
So that was kind of my pathway into getting the, not many college students get the opportunity to meet these, AAA devs and stuff. So it's,
Yeah.
that's kind of what got me my contacts. Essentially what it is, when I was at college,
Okay.
college is in the UK, and it, I know that basically all other countries can do it as well. So if you're in a level 3, it is for college students, level 3 game art course, or animation course anywhere in the world, and if you type in your country and then world skills, and it comes up with you have a team for it, which almost every country has a team for it. You potentially could be eligible to enter this thing.
Right.
So how it works in our country, because it's a bit more established over here, every college puts forward their top 2 students, and that has an internal competition leading up to it.
Yeah.
And a typical competition would be like, okay, like I'll give you an example. So Micro Machines, right? The game that Codemasters made.
Mm-hmm.
We had to finish unwrapping and texture a truck from that in like a day.
Okay.
And then another day we had to make a full like Zeppelin, like the kind of thing from Guns of Icarus, in a day, model, unwrap, and texture in 6 hours.
Nice, right? Okay.
Obviously the quality isn't like AAA, but like you need to try and get it done, and it shows how quick you work under pressure.
Yeah.
So I did that. That was like, I got chosen to represent my college. And then over the course of 15 competitions around the world, I went from, I got the best in the UK, and then I went to Sweden, which is how EA heard of me.
Right.
For the Euro skills, it's like the European Championship. So they take the Russians and the Finnish competitors and French and Spanish and Dutch, and then they all meet up. And then I won that one, which was a vehicle brief on Need for Speed. And then we went to Abu Dhabi 2 years later, and then but like there's like over the course of the whole thing there was like 15 competitions, and by the Abu Dhabi one it was the whole world. So
Wow.
yeah, it's completely new, and a lot of people are like, I speak to people in uni about it, and they're like, oh, I wish I had done that in my college and stuff. But yeah, I mean, if you're at college, which I guess I don't know your demographic, but if you're like level 4, not level, yeah, if you're level 3, so I know some universities do like foundation degree courses.
Mm-hmm.
In theory you're eligible, and in Scotland I know you're eligible if you're a little bit older as well. I think first year of uni, you're just not allowed to compete abroad because there's like age limits on that.
Oh, right.
But
Okay.
yeah, if you type it in, you can find out a little bit more. But throughout that course and process of doing 15 or so competitions, I sort of made a name for myself within the industry. And then
Nice.
this isn't just for game art as well, by the way. Like this is like the Olympics of skills for like really young people, like kind of college age people.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have hairdressing, cooking. That one's like MasterChef, the cooking one. They have like bricklaying, so they'll make them create some crazy ass sculpture out of bricks. You have to you have like web developers, they have to make a website and so long, and it's for every type of industry. But yeah, obviously the one we're bothered with is game art.
Yeah, nah, that's amazing. Because like when I read this, I was like, wait, how? I would be like wanting to do that straight away, but I didn't hear of such a thing. Because because obviously I'm in Scotland, and when it came to when I was in college and stuff, so I was 17 when I started college, and like I always made sure to take every opportunity that I had available to me. And
What college did you go to?
so I went to a college in Aberdeen called it was just called Aberdeen College. Well, it got changed to North East Scotland College, and so I went there so that's the thing. So education is obviously different between Scotland and England, but
Yeah.
so I went to a few colleges, then I went to a university. So I did like a HNC and then a HND in 3D computer animation, but it's like this whole topic of opportunities that people have to realize. It's like there's things out there that once you start exploring, you can really start taking advantage of and grow, and most importantly improve. Well, actually, most importantly, just simply having fun. And like when I was reading that, I was like, now that is something I would love to see on like a TV scale. Imagine just everyone doing like a 3D art. I don't know, like similar to Nomi, like they do the sculpt off, because ZBrush is my favorite thing. and sculpting assets and stuff, and watching the 3 hour sculpt off between like the best artists in the world just going at it, and everyone's having fun.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it?
And this is the coolest thing. They get a WWE belt as a trophy.
That's awesome.
Like that is like the coolest thing you can ever get. And it's like proper, like it's not like anything cheap. It's like a proper belt, and it's like super awesome. And it's just like, oh, it'd be so cool if like they started diving into like more things like this, because it just get more people aware of art and what games are like and what films are like. You never know, somebody might be making something in the future, hopefully bringing this together. Like I always kind of picture what's it called, Big Hero 6, and it's like do you have like the mini robot wars? I'm not sure if you ever like Baymax and stuff, and like, oh, it'd be so awesome if a world was like that, or like Alita. Oh, it'd be so awesome. Right, before I get carried away with so much energy because of that coolest thing I've ever heard on the podcast, what we're going to talk about is this is actually a random one. So before I get into like the main questions I always ask, this is something that just popped in my head today. What scared you the most about the industry? Or education, whatever you feel you or you can even do both. But if you want to go to industry first, I think does anything kind of pop to mind?
I think both. The first one for like when I was at college. Now I have a lot of respect for my tutor doing this, and whenever I speak to students, I do it as well. There's 63 of us starting our level 3 course, which is a huge class, right? I don't think it's ever reached those numbers again. And he stood in front of our class and went, I predict that about 2 of you will get into industry. So if you're not serious about doing this, I suggest you leave. And Whoa. that was so like heavy. And he was like, don't think that just finishing this course and going into uni, you're going to walk away with a job, because I don't want you to waste 5-6 years of your life. If you're here because you like to play games, great. But if you're not, like, once you start understanding how the games work and how to make them, if you're not enjoying that in a different and almost separate way just as much, you're not going to be able to make the cut. And then when I got into industry, I'd say the thing that scared me the most, and still does in some ways, because it's a bit of a mad world, but I grew up in Chester near Liverpool, and now I live in Coventry and work in Birmingham. And the scariest thing was I was 18 and just got shipped off to the middle of nowhere. I grew up near the coast, so not having the sea was kind of weird for me.
Yeah.
And our studio, when I first joined, now it's a bit different. We've hired quite a few juniors recently, but for like the first 2 years of me working there, the next youngest guy after me was about 28, 30.
Whoa, right, okay.
Yeah, it's a very senior team at our team. It's not anymore. We've really diversified it, but like it's that was scary, because I basically like got no one my age, and because everyone my age is at uni, so that kind of struck hard a bit. I kind of missed that uni life. That I did end up getting it through like friends and stuff that I met, because obviously I had to go out and make friends or I'd drive myself insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did end up getting the uni life eventually, like through those. But I'd say being like the initial loneliness of moving to the middle of nowhere and being surrounded by loads of people you don't know in a job that is very high pressure and trying to get through your probation period, which is nowhere near as scary afterwards once you're through it. But at the time, it's kind of like, oh my God, do I commit to buying this? Do I commit to doing that? And then just to like, if I mess up, that's it. It's a scary prospect, sort of being by yourself and being forced to grow up extremely quick.
Oh, I completely agree, because the one aspect that I can relate to you there is so I've moved 12 times in like 6 years. So I've been moving, like I've moved all the time, going back and forth between places and moving cities and stuff. And the one thing to me that was always the hardest thing was it wasn't the hardest thing early on, because I'm a pretty darn I'm a very confident person. Like I've always been very kind of easy to talk to and stuff. But once I kept on moving, I always had this kind of feeling as of, wait, am I ever going to settle?
Yeah.
And it was just that feeling of just like once I did settle, I was like, wait, in my head I still feel like I'm not going to settle, if that makes sense, because I've been so used to moving that it was just it was so weird to finally settle down. And like that's the thing. So if anyone like particularly like people Dan's age and stuff, if you are having to make a move and you're maybe young and 18, just realize that it takes time. but also enjoy it. Like obviously, it's a great experience being on your own, but make the most of it while you can and stuff. And most importantly, do what Dan was saying. So obviously, you have to go out and socialize, learn the area around you, maybe start getting involved in things, get involved in clubs and stuff. Do things to get yourself out there. And I understand the typical gamer or the typical artist maybe isn't most sociable person, but I've realized things have actually begun to grow a lot over the years, and it's nice to see that people are branching out more and getting more confident and just sharing things. So do that, get involved, and you'll be just fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So the next thing that would be really awesome to talk about is just to give everyone a little heads up as well. So we're going to be doing the 500 seconds at the end of today's podcast. So it's finally coming back, and I can't wait to bombard Dan with all these random questions. It's going to be interesting. So I can't wait for that. So as always, man, I always like to kind of ask like certain core questions and stuff, just to kind of see what your perspective was like, because obviously you're at college, but obviously you didn't have the uni experience.
Yeah.
So if you had to kind of maybe, my way of I guess the best way for me to ask this is, if you were to do things again, is there anything that you would do differently to get to just make things better, basically overall?
I think the main one, I don't know, I'm really happy with everything. I'm one of these people that doesn't really, if you're happy in your current self, like you shouldn't really have any regrets. I've kind of got that outlook on life, but
I'm the same as you. Finally, someone else.
I don't regret anything.
Yeah, good.
Even though I've been blessed with so many opportunities and stuff, the ones that I've, declined and the ones that I've pursued, I don't feel like any of them have been a waste in any way. Because at the end of the day, like, I'm happy now. So I don't know. I don't really feel like that question's really relevant but I guess if I wasn't happy, let's just assume I'm not happy right now.
Yeah.
One thing I'd say when I get kind of similar to if you could go back to your 16-year-old self and give them a piece of life advice, what would it be? I tell him to, under absolutely no circumstances, while you're studying game art, get involved with relationships. Like, just because I didn't do that. Like, for 2 years of my life, I just worked at like a pub and then came home and did game art till 4 a.m. and repeated it.
Yeah.
And that was, in like short-term hindsight, it was like a kind of life regret, because I was like really lonely, because I hadn't pushed friends away. I still had loads of friends and stuff, but I was like, I'd never been out drinking. Like, I hadn't started drinking or anything like that, and I'd never, I'd missed out on all these life experiences. So maybe I'd say loosen up a little bit and do some stuff.
Yeah.
But definitely no life it completely, because while you're I do this in one of my talks, right? I have like a thing where I'll go, all right, so how's your game art doing? Like, say you've got like a deadline due. I have this slide that I always show, which is like generic uni student responses, and it's like, I'm like, oh, so why isn't the work to like the next quality? It's like, oh, I didn't get around to doing that, or run out of time, or oh, I've been so busy, right? Now there's some genuinely like decent excuses, like, you're ill or something's happened in your personal life. You can't avoid those things. But when it's like my favorite one, I'll be like, oh, so do you want to go do a speed art now? Like, I want to do like a speed art competition, or like, just a quick one at night, like for like 1.5 hours, just pick an asset off, like just go around Google Images, find something we like, and sort of all jump on our preferred software and make it in an hour, and then compare and give each other tips. And then they're like, nah, sorry, I'm really busy tonight. And then half an hour into the speed art, they've just launched Minecraft, or like you see them pop up on like Dota or something on Steam, and you're like, oh, okay, so you weren't that busy then. You could have done it. It's like, obviously you need that downtime and stuff, but I'd say when you're really, just starting out, no life it as much as you can, because you will thank yourself in the long run. Because I completely no lifed it for 2 years, and then I didn't have to end up going to university.
Yeah.
Like, I wrote off my life for 2 years, essentially.
Well, it paid off though, so it got you what you wanted, and it's getting a balance between the two things. And I realised that because I was the same as you in the sense that, and I've realised it's the same for most artists, and clearly based on the topic that we're discussing right now, because I've always just like, for example, when it came to my sort of stuff, I was just always like, I just knew what I wanted, and I wanted it so badly, not in the sense of proving anything really. It was just like I just wanted to do a certain thing. I just wanted to get it as soon as possible, and then you also have to realize that obviously like the main point that we're talking about here is that like you can't like for example, family is like the most important thing to me in my life,
and your own health as well.
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, like your own health, and we all obviously go through certain things, like Dan was saying and stuff. But you have to acknowledge the fact that you're meant to be living. You're not a machine. Like we're all human beings. We all go through things, and you have to acknowledge the fact that it's the more you push yourself, the more you're at risk to maybe experience certain things that maybe you're not wanting to experience. Like obviously that's the only way you figure out things about yourself. That's the only way you learn. It's the only way you grow. But there's a healthy balance, and take that from a person who's especially what Dan was saying, and also especially from myself, because I made a lot of like I don't like to call it mistakes because I don't regret anything, like literally like we just discussed. But if I had to say like maybe if I had to do a few things more, it would basically be maybe go out an extra day more than I did, if that makes sense. Just having a wee bit more break time, because that whole concept of break is for example, take fitness and gym, etc. When it comes to fitness, it's the resting period and the diet that's in the long run develops your body the quickest. And if you can appreciate that, you'll get better. So,
yeah.
Well, as with all that said, make sure to just have fun, enjoy the experience. Like you were saying about the uni experience, you've got to enjoy it. And there's a balance between the art and the socializing. Get the right balance, and you'll do just fine.
Yeah, I guess that's the more concise answer. Yeah, just no life it, but remember to have a life as well.
Yeah, sorry, I always like to go very philosophical. I just enter like this sort of podcast mode. I'm just like, right,
yeah.
It's time to dive deep. Time to change the emotions up. Like literally, I do Twitch stream, and my friends were like, Ross, you just enter like podcast voice mode. It's like you can't stop. I was like, sorry, just the energy, it just flows. But with that said, so the next one, as always on the podcast, I like to talk about the aspect of the internet and the education side of things in terms of like online stuff and online teaching. This since you do like vehicle stuff, it would be really cool to go. Obviously, I know you're skilled in a lot of things, but is there anything, if you had to maybe say to vehicle artists out there who are listening in, like what would you go to in terms of how to get better at vehicle art?
Well, I am an environment artist first and foremost.
Yep.
Like I mostly make environments out of everything.
Okay.
For vehicle artists, I'd say experiment with your workflow. Same with all artists, to be honest. I don't really mind which it is.
Yeah.
Kind of go. I used to do a thing where I make like a spider diagram thing. Like if you just sort of like draw like almost a compass shape and then write a skill on the end of each one. So model, unwrap, texture, sculpting or whatever. And then rate yourself out of 5 for each one and then connect them up. You kind of get like almost a FIFA style attack defense sort of graph. And then just kind of over time try and even that out as best you can.
Yep.
So my biggest weakness is drawing.
Okay.
And I am under absolutely no motivation to improve that drawing. But I kind of see that as okay because I did it again, like that spider thing I was mentioning, relevant to my job. And I was like, okay, like it seems that I'm pretty all well-rounded now. So I guess now as I have an understanding as to what's going on, I need to take those from being like like you should never rate yourself 5, like, 3 or 4, and then go, right, let's experiment with workflow. Let's just toss a spanner in the works and see where it ruins me and then work it out. So for example, I'll go, okay, I'm not too great at sculpting hard surface stuff in ZBrush, and that's that and Marvelous Designer, because I found whenever I came across doing like something cloth, so let's say you wanted to do leather in a car or like a sofa or something,
okay,
if you want to make that look like photorealistic, where are you going to get that from? Like you can use like is it Mass Effects or something in 3ds Max or whatever, but you're probably not going to get the same effects as ZBrush and Marvelous Designer working in tandem. So work out different workflows and sort of look at your own assets. I'm sure you hate your own assets. And then and work out what new technique is there a technique to improve that. So like riveting on planes, say you're like a vehicle artist and you're working on like a plane, and paneling on cars, so you say you have your front wing and bonnet. What's the best way to actually go about putting those in? Is it to model it like that? Is it to cut it in afterwards? And then once you have those edges, what's the best way to actually convert them? And sort of establish where your weaknesses are and then improve them.
Awesome. No, that's great. Awesome content. Because that's the thing. It's all about raising the main thing. Like I always like to say is raising just the whole concept of questions and figuring out what you need to achieve, what you want to achieve, how you're going to do it, all these different things that you can explore. And obviously the internet, there's so many things accessible to us these days, and especially if you are tuning in and you're an environment artist or you're a vehicle artist, there's so much amazing content out there for you to grab. And like for example, the main thing with me, so I'm doing environment art at the moment, and my main thought process is all around making sure things have like a very kind of strong structure in terms of like fundamentals in regards to a good base of understanding of architecture. So going into research about how things work, how things connect. There's one artist, I don't think I've actually mentioned him on the podcast. You'll probably love him, man. Like he's so good. His name is Gurmukh Basin. Have you ever heard of him before?
No.
Oh, he's so good. So he did he was the main vehicle and spaceship designer for Star Citizen, and he made literally everything so believable to the state that you'd always think they'd work. Like because he came from an architectural background and he knew so much about vehicles. It was just like it's similar to a guy called Vitaly Balkarov. Like they're both so kind of they understand how things truly function, if you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
it's that really makes things just click.
Yeah, I'd say that will improve your modeling infinitely as well if you can start thinking like that. Our art director is he was a product designer before he moved into games and
Nice.
worked on Crackdown and stuff like that. And then a couple of our other people are the ex ArcViz or have worked in ArcViz before. And then I'd say if you look at my boat on my art station and the quad bike, I made those when I made those. I spent like a good couple hours like learning about actual those things. So
Okay.
I learned how a quad bike went together. I did have to cut some corners because it's a game, but there's like a GIF breakdown of like the chassis and stuff. Now that chassis had to be my own because I couldn't like impair copyright and stuff, but it is inspired from a different type of chassis similar. And then the same with the boat, that the material that boat's made of, because I'm like, is it canvas or is it rubber or is it plastic? So I had to go and I watched some rich people like do like some walk around of their fancy boat.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that's a nice looking boat. I kind of want that material. Found a YouTube channel that specialized in boat reviews, and he like touched it, and it was like he was like, oh, this is some great, and then insert some kind of I don't know, like foreign element here. It was like something from a sci-fi TV. I was like, okay, let's go and research that, and I found out what it was made of most and how it was weaved, and that kind of helped me. It was never going to be perfect because I needed to like put it on a texture sheet, but at least it got me the right surface values because I knew what it was made up of.
Yeah.
And then I talk about this as well in like a lot of Discord channels when people are like asking for help with scale. Just go on IKEA's website and find something roughly the size and shape what you're after, and then go on the dimensions tab and it'll tell you exactly the size of it.
I never even thought about that. Yeah, that's a great one because that was actually something I struggled a lot in my last project because of how just so I made a train environment and the train.
Oh yeah, the like hover train thing that's like suspended, that the monorail train, that thing's epic. Yeah.
I had so much fun making it, man, and it was just but scale was just one of those things that I was just like obviously so this is the thing I was actually talking about. So I had someone who like mentored me and gave me so much advice called Fraser McLean. Come on the podcast. He's one of like the main people from Disney, and he was just telling me like how so many people these days have such poor insight or like knowledge for how things how can I say it? It's like, for example, do you only when you go outside and you just draw someone doing a rough sketch, like their just ability to do that is like so many students have lost that ability because they don't appreciate form, they don't understand volumes that very well. And it's going back to this topic, such as getting like your research and stuff. It takes that time to explore and look into these things. Like you're talking about here about looking into the boat material and so forth. I actually love a really old TV show. Well, I don't know if some people call it old, but it's an old. It was kind of like, how can I say it? It's called. Did you ever watch Scrap Heap Challenge?
Yes,
Oh my
that
god,
was
it was
awesome.
so good. It was like I loved that show. It was like Scrap Heap Challenge, and then there was Overhauling the car show. I'm not sure. Did you ever watch Overhauling? Oh,
Um, no,
it,
but one thing I want to say about Scrap Heap Challenge is
yeah,
one of the things that like I say to students is understanding is infinitely more powerful than knowledge. Like you can know how to model that stun grenade, which I imagine a lot of people have made, but
yeah,
it's like I've never made it, but I've seen Shamfa's own tutorial or something that teaches you how to make a stun grenade or whatever. Like knowing how to do that and copying it step by step, and then adapting those skills and understanding what the tools do.
yeah,
Like if you watch Scrap Heap Challenge. Um, if you take someone who knows how to, let's say you work on like an assembly line at like BMW, right?
yeah,
And he knows exactly how to put the door cards and fit the windows and make all the electrics work and stuff. And he knows how to do that, and that's his job. That is very different to a farmer somewhere in Munich or over here in like Gloucester or something like that. And they have an understanding of how to fix their tractor, fix their lawnmower, fix everything in their house, and then they go on Scrap Heap Challenge and they don't just know how to, oh, I don't know how to do this. They understand the principles of, oh, okay, that battery from that Land Rover should power this big crane. That'll do.
yeah.
They understand the principles, and the same goes for 3D. Like knowing how to make something is very different to understanding.
Yeah, oh, like that's a perfect way to go about that because it's just that thing is as well. It's about that creativity as well. It's like getting a balance between the understanding. Like for example, one of my favorite artists is a guy called Feng Su. I'm not sure if you're so Feng Su is a concept artist. He's based in Singapore, and he has a school Feng Su Design. So just FCD or ZD. Sorry, do like the American style, but. He has that core fundamentals always like he always brings them up. So he'll explore with the shape, the design. He'll go crazy and stuff, and then he'll break it down. So like where does if he's making a fish suddenly turn into a submarine, how would it work? And he slowly picks it apart and breaks it down as basic as possible. And it's those small things that like Dan was mentioning that goes such a long way. So really take the time, think about what you're doing, understand why you're doing it, and naturally things you'll just become a natural understanding function. Like function's like the main key here in a way. It's just if you can understand function, you've got the main sort of thing kind of highlighted because you want to prove like it makes sense, if you know what I mean.
Definitely, like if you're doing a pipe set, become a plumber for the day. If you're modeling a table, become what are they called? People who make furniture.
A carpenter.
A joiner or a carpenter for the day, and then if you get making a kitchen, become a kitchen fitter for the day, and whatever that is, become a car guy for the day. It's like
Yeah,
it just be whatever that is, kind of treated like an actor, how they set into their role. That is your life for the next however many hours you're making that, and then
yeah.
go and research it and become one of those people. Not obviously, we do precision guesswork in this industry. We're not expecting perfection, but the more you know, the better it'll be.
Perfect. Well, thanks once again for coming on, man. Like this has been this has been such a blast of a podcast. This has been a whole different take. I haven't really. This has like been like, jam packed with so many different things. But now, when it comes to the podcast, it's going to be the fun part. So this is going to be a bunch of random things. So obviously, I try to stick to 500 seconds. We've done it so far with Hannah. We've done it so far with Kieran. It's 500 seconds of just random questions. And just so you know, man, there's literally no pressure. If you feel you don't want to answer the question, you can press. You can just say pass. But to be honest, they're not that scary. They're not that scary. But I am ready when you are, my friend.
So just answering with no explanation, just moving on to the next one.
Oh, answer and explanation. Explanation is always required.
Oh, okay.
It
Right,
makes
I'm ready.
It makes it more enjoyable, right? Well, this might be a. I've already talked to you about this one, but we'll answer this one. We'll ask you this one anyway. Favorite movie and why?
Arrival, because when you watch it the first time, you're a bit confused, but the end's awesome, and then the second time you watch it, you get something completely different out of it.
Perfect. Right. This is like a bit of a random one, right? If you're an animal, what would you be?
Parrot.
Right. Okay. I need an explanation for this. Like,
because
why a parrot?
Because at least I can still talk, 'cause I never shut up anyway, and the idea of flying's quite cool, and yeah, parrot's just awesome.
Because like I was like trying to think about this one for ages. I was like, it's like, am I trying to be too cliche when I think about this? So, but you come with a power. That was like all of a sudden, like I've always been like this. How can I say, a big fan of like sharks and stuff. So like to me, like I don't know. I just like the whole idea of like what sharks are like, and like, people always have this sort of false impression. Like they think they're so deadly. Like I get it. Like I get it. Like they're scary to look at, but and like they're so powerful they can tear you apart. But that's if you go over to them and pester them, or unless you're a tiger shark, then you're pretty much screwed because tiger shark just eats everything. They'll even eat a car. Right. This is a fun one. Celebrity crush.
Oh my god.
Remember, you can say pass. I'm just saying.
Oh my god, I can't think.
The pressure's on.
Oh, I guess when I was younger, I could go for younger. I haven't had one recently, but when I've been watching Harry Potter recently, and it reminded me of one that I had. You know the absolutely psycho girl Luna from Harry Potter, the
Luna Lovegood.
Irish. Yeah. When I was a bit younger, I had a bit of a crush on her. So yeah.
Awesome, Luna Lovegood, perfect choice. Can't go wrong. I've always been the same. I don't even. Wow, what's her name again? I'm trying to think. So mine was. So I said this. I need to maybe start figuring up to see what people would say. So there's a film. I'm pretty sure you've seen it. Casino Royale.
Yeah.
It's the woman in that. It's Eva. Is it Eva Green? Eva Green. That's the one. Eva Green. That's my celebrity crush. Can't go wrong with Eva Green. Right. What's the one thing you can't live without?
I guess I couldn't live without game art because I have no job. I got nothing else.
That's. Why did my other? Why, I don't know why Kieran and Hannah didn't say that. So the Hannah said an awesome question, an awesome answer. She said coffee. Like she
or
was
oxygen. I can't live without oxygen.
Like oxygen. the smart, sensible answer. Very okay. Damn it, Dan. Right. What's your biggest fear?
Spiders. Just really generic, but
right,
okay. That's how it is.
Interesting. Nah, I understand. Like spiders is always an interesting one. So I used to be scared of spiders, but I'm not really scared of spiders anymore. But in saying that, I'm going to be visiting my mum soon, and my mum lives in Australia, and maybe good luck. Exactly, the whole sort of journey might be changing. She literally had what's it called? They had like a 7-foot snake in their house a few months ago, and I was just like, nope.
I love snakes. I love snakes to bits. So yeah, I wouldn't be bothered about a snake, but I'm getting better with spiders. But no, big fat no, especially the huntsman ones.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Terrible
One of them.
things.
No thanks. I'm alright. Just about handle the house ones if they're small.
Yeah, the small ones are always. Well, I don't mind the small ones. I'm always like trying to catch them and put them outside. Right. What's the first app you open in the morning?
Oh God.
Mine's Twitter, if it makes it easier.
I guess it depends. It's either Twitter or Facebook, but sometimes YouTube. Like I might just flick through YouTube and see what videos. Because one thing I like to do at work is listen to like documentaries. Because if I watch something too engaging, like that's it, my head's off it all day. So instead of like listening to like audiobooks and podcasts, which I sometimes do, I'll listen to like a documentary. So I might chuck a couple of things on watch later for while I'm at work just to listen to if I'm interested.
Nice. Yeah. Like that's the thing. Is like. I'm kind of similar in the sense that like when I'm working, it's like if I am listening to a podcast, like I'll just get distracted. It's like a balance between like sometimes I'll just be like music. It's just trying to figure out, well, just the way my mind works. Like if I'm listening to a podcast, I can't focus on two things at once. It's just I don't have that skill. Right. This is one I stole from one of my favorite YouTubers. This is just a random question. He said, if you were to have a pet animal that was like, you could literally hold it in your hands, just have it as a pet, what would you have? You could like say if I wanted to go for a shark, I could go for the shark, so I would just have a mini shark in a fish tank. What would you choose?
Oh, actually, does it have to be a real animal?
Screw it, we'll break the rules. No real animal.
I kind of want a dragon just because I've been watching Harry Potter a lot recently. I've been binging through them all. And
Amazing.
in the Goblet of Fire, they have the little dragons, don't they, in the bag? And I'm like,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be epic to have one of those as a pet just sat on your shoulder?
That'd be sick. Oh.
So yeah, one of the dragons from Harry Potter.
So you've got what? The Norwegian. Wait. So you got Firebolt. No, not Firebolt. What's it called? I've forgotten the names. The Firebolt's the name of the bloody. Everyone's going to hate me now because I'm like a Harry Potter addict. Wait, let's actually check. Let's do important checks. So Harry.
Mine would be whichever one Harry faced because that was like the scariest one anyway. It just looked cool anyway.
I've forgotten the names and I don't know why. This is like I'm literally like your biggest Harry. Like I'm like the biggest Harry Potter fan in the world, and I've forgotten their names. Harry
See, I'm
Potter dragon names.
See, I'm not, but like this podcast gonna make me look like a mad Harry Potter fan because I chose Luna and then I chose this, and I'll probably mention it at some other point. But yeah, that's what happens when you've binged Harry Potter for like 3 days on the trot.
All right, here we go. So
What are they called?
how did I forget this? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get like I can just tell my friends are gonna ambush me. So we've got the Hungarian Horntail, which is like obviously the badass.
Yeah.
So that's the one that you were talking about. We've got this. That was the one I was saying. I was right. The Swedish short snout, and then this one. This is a pretty cool name. The Chinese Fireball. I've always loved that one. And then the one that's the very simple one. It's the other one. It's the Welsh Green. That was like the nice kind name one. But yeah, Hungarian Horntail. Imagine having him as a pet. Just as long as he doesn't stab you to death, you'll be fine.
Yeah. Hopefully it's tamed.
Yeah. Awesome. Right. Next one. What TV show are you looking most forward to that's coming out? Does any of the...
David Attenborough's new documentary series.
Oh, what's it called? I'm not aware of this. Why am I not aware of this? What's it called?
I don't know. They're all named very similar, aren't they? Probably Planet World or something like that, or
Right.
World of Planet. You know what he's like? He just takes the word world and planet and then chucks a number on it or mashes them up or like
Sorted.
He announced it at Glastonbury. I know that.
Oh yeah. Okay. I don't know what it's called either.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
Nice. Right. Last question. So this one is kind of like your typical like cliche question, but it depends on how you take it. If you had to choose between going to the back in the past or going into the future, and you couldn't come back to the present, what would you choose? So obviously,
can I choose when it happens? Like, can I like live my life and then just before I die go screw it? Let's see what's happening in 10,000 years' time.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do it that way.
I'll do that then. I want to know what's gonna go down. I want to see what humans are like because I have a funny feeling we're devolving a bit and we're all gonna end up like the people on Wall-E.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. That's one way to put it. Like that's the thing. Is like this whole sort of thing that's happening with the. I'm not sure how many people. I might be wrong, but I've got the number 23 in my head. But so there's that people who are actually going to live in Mars, because of obviously all the water source. So this was brought up on the Joe Rogan Experience that they were talking about. He was talking with Brian Cox. I think it was the first episode Brian Cox was on with him, and they were talking about obviously building a colony over there and trying to get so many people ready for it. But I'm just wondering, like, because of that, I'm pretty sure that's meant to be happening in 2023.
Yeah, I know. We'll get to see that. That's the cool thing. I like the idea that we're going to land on a planet. We're going to the moon again next year, aren't we, or something like that? Or the year after, 2021, I think.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah, NASA put out a video called "We're Going" or something. But yeah, the idea of us going to Mars before assuming I make it that long, I hope I would. It is quite cool, actually.
That'd be awesome. Like, I have no idea how they do it, but or how they're going to go about it, but it'd be super cool to hear. But thank you so much for doing that, man. That was super awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure having you on the show. As always, everyone has been tuning in. Make sure to go give them a follow, and as always, the links will be in the description below. As always, obviously my goal is to try and get to 10,000 subscribers. Obviously, we're currently on the task to get to 3,000 subscribers. But my goal is literally, I don't have a clue how I'm going to do it, folks. But the goal is still to do 50 podcasts between now and Christmas. So we've already done. I know I have no idea how I'm going to do it, man. But I'll figure a way. And obviously it's quality, obviously that we're wanting. So I'll keep making sure I bring new ideas and stuff to the table. But make sure to leave a subscription. It'll be much appreciated. And check out all the links once again. And with that said, we will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for listening.
See you guys.